Hello everyone, this is Highlander from MTG Cardsmith doing another custom Magic the Gathering card review, and today we're reviewing a card by Arceus8523 for his set Endgame Unleashed. This is a Amonkhet themed set, and this is the 7th card I've reviewed from the set. These are all going to be in a playlist, so if you want to watch them in order, watch the playlist. So here we got a Tibalt, and oh no, I'm having flashbacks because it's a double red Tibalt. Help me. I hope that this one actually does things. If those, by the way, those of you that haven't seen the first Tibalt that they ever printed, it's just abysmal. Just take a quick look at this guy. Where is it? Oh, the Fiend Blooded. Yeah, that's not the original art. There you go. So okay, take a look. Let's just bask in the glory that is Tibalt the Fiend Blooded. So it's the first time, and I think the last time, they ever made a 2-mana Planeswalker. So this is a mythic rare. It comes in at 2 loyalty. +1. Draw a card, then discard a card at random. Oh boy. So that's not rummaging at all. It's just like, it's like do nothing, essentially. -4, so you have to do nothing for 2 turns. Tibalt the Fiend-Blooded deals damage equal to the number of cards in target player's hand to that player. So if your opponent is literally doing nothing, he can ping them for some damage, and then you'll lose Tibalt. Okay. Or if you happen to do nothing for 6 turns with this guy, you get to Insurrection. Gain control of all creatures, untap them, they gain haste, blah, blah, blah. But basically this card doesn't do anything, really. I mean, it's like, draw a card, then discard a card at random. That is so close to just do nothing. They might as well just leave this blank and just have this say +1. Anyway. Alright, that's enough about Tibalt the Fiend-Blooded. So here, we've got Tibalt False Devotee. Devotee. So let's see if Arceus did a better job with a 2-mana Planeswalker. Now, keep in mind, it is dangerous to make a 2-mana Planeswalker. Planeswalkers are not very fun to play against, generally. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but a lot of the Planeswalkers they've made recently have just not been particularly strong, which I think is a positive, if you ask me. Like, it makes them more reasonable. It makes it so, like, you don't just auto-lose against them in Limited. And honestly, playing against Planeswalker decks is really not fun. If you've ever played against like a Super Friends deck where your opponent just takes hours like plussing and minusing all their Planeswalkers every turn while they leave up counter mana and you're just like not doing anything, it's kind of a miserable experience. So okay, so let's see what we got with Tibalt. I see this is a major throwback because you have the same cost and the same starting loyalty. So +1. You may discard a card. If you do, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. Okay. That is significantly better than do nothing. It's worse than a rummage. So, yeah, it's kind of an interesting middle ground. Okay, let's see what else he does. -2, create a 1/1 red devil creature token with when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. I see. So the other Tibalt in War of the Spark had the exact same ability, except I think it was -1. He could make 3 of them. This guy makes 1 of them if you -2 immediately, or 2 if you happen to +1 twice. Which is actually not that hard considering this guy costs 2 mana, right? Like if you're on the play and your opponent doesn't have a 1-drop, I mean, you could really run away with this guy. So, all right, -4. Gain control of all creatures and Planeswalkers until end of turn. Untap them. They gain haste till end of turn. You lose the game at the beginning of your next upkeep. I see. So Insurrection, but you have to win. Okay. So how do we feel about Tibalt False Divorcee? Why do I always see Divorcee when I look at that? Who's he divorcing here? Why is he a false devotee? What is he pretending to be devoted to something? What is he pretending to be devoted to? Okay, so this guy seems like mostly a rummage bot. This type of rummaging is actually kind of bad in the early game. But you could also, again, it's a maze, so you could just plus, make a devil. Yeah, I mean, I think that would probably be the most common route here. Is you would probably, I mean, you're gonna play this guy, you're gonna plus, and you're not gonna actually discard a card, because you can't actually play the card that you're gonna exile. So you're just gonna plus and do nothing. Let's say you're on the play, right? Your opponent then plays a 2-drop, and then you -2 this to make a devil. And if they don't have removal for the devil, listen to what I just said. If they don't have removal for the devil, that's not something I ever thought I would say. Then you +1 the turn after. This would be on turn 4. Now you have a much higher chance of getting to use the exile card, but not guaranteed. Well, probably. I mean, you're very likely to be able to make use of that card, especially if you do it before you play your land, and you're likely going to want to play this in a low curve deck. So, and then you want to play another, some way to protect it, and then you got to plus it again. So basically, like, if this guy stays alive to the late game, I think the rummaging actually becomes quite powerful because it turns into like an actual rummage. And then, so like if you draw this guy late, he's actually a lot better than it feels like than if you play him on turn 2. Because on turn 2, you're never going to discard a card, right? Unless you like are playing a deck that wants to discard cards specifically, but that seems really unlikely in this situation, in a limited situation anyway. So I would say I actually think this might be balanced, but I don't know if I like the fact that when you play this on 2 and you plus it, you're like never gonna actually use the plus. That feels a little strange to me. I think that's my really only gripe with this card. I actually think this card could be balanced. Again, you would really have to playtest this card to know how good it is. Planeswalkers are really tough to evaluate unless you actually see them in action. And there are certainly situations where like all he's going to do is come in and make a double because they're you're behind. They have attacks on you. You're on the draw, and they played a 2/2, right? So you're just like, all right, well, I'll just trade my Tibalt for their 2/2, I guess, if they decide. So yeah, I mean, there are some situations. I think this guy is best on the play, but I think he's even better late game. Like if you well, actually, if you top deck him, okay. So if you're playing a red deck and you're fairly low curve, right, and you have like 4 or 5 mana, and you're specifically keeping lands in hand because you have Tibalt, you play Tibalt, you discard the land, exile the top card, and then maybe get to play, most likely get to play something, or a land at the worst. So I think that's actually when he's at his best, is when you're sort of at board parity, and then this guy comes in and basically lets you essentially sort of blood token your way out of, so that you're only drawing gas basically. That's really when he seems like he's at his best. So yeah, I overall, I'm actually surprised at how reasonably this card seems to be balanced for a 2-mana planeswalker, and so I have to commend you for that. I guess the -4 in the late game is actually really dangerous too, now that I think about it. Like, if you're at board parity and like people are just, you know, adding things to the board, blah blah blah. I mean that's not a really common scenario nowadays in limited, but there are certainly situations where you're at board parity, nobody has any attacks. You just tick this guy up twice and then -4 and then just kill them. But he is a rare. So, yeah, I mean, maybe that should be at -5. I don't know. Again, like, at this point, I'm sort of just nitpicking. Like, I think overall, the idea behind this card is pretty solid. You would really need to playtest this one and know how good it is. I think it's reasonably balanced. To me, it looks that way. And I kind of commend you for... I mean, I get it, right? You're trying to, like, redo Tibalt so he's not embarrassing. And I have to commend you for doing a pretty good job. I really think my only gripe with this card is the fact that when you play... On the play, when you play this, you're not actually... You're just going to +1 do nothing, essentially. Which, coincidentally, is the same thing as the original Tibalt did. But, feels a little lame, I guess, is the main thing. But other than that, and the fact that maybe the -4 should be a -5 or something, I like this card. So I'm going to give this one a... I'll give this one an 8, I think. You know, it's another try on the 2-mana Tibalt. And, yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see... I think, Arceus, I've heard you talk about playtesting your sets. I'm curious to see how this card actually did. Let me know. Let me know how this card did in your playtest. Did it seem a little too strong? Did it seem too weak? Did it seem just right? Yeah, I'm curious. Let me know. So yeah, that's my review of Tibalt False Divorcee. I'll see you guys next time.